Chris Paul, big shock, fit in immediately with the Golden State Warriors offense. They were able to kind of use him in two ways. Obviously, with Draymond out of the lineup right now with that ankle injury, they need someone who can make passes to their off-ball actions, and you saw Chris Paul do some of that, basically acting as the fulcrum as Steph and Klay were running around on screens, and then he's thrived in the on-ball stuff, which, again, there was some debate because Chris Paul basically didn't run this type of offense at all over the course of the rest of his career, at least relative to what most teams in the league do. And so there was some question as to whether or not he'd be able to operate in a 5-out system that's less heliocentric and more, read and react and operating off the ball. But he did just fine. Synergy logged him at 4 pick and rolls. I had him at 5 in my rewatch. There was a ball screen on the right wing where he took a dribble handoff from Looney, but he didn't actually use the dribble handoff. He turned around and used it as a ball screen. So on those 5 possessions, the 5 pick and rolls, the Warriors scored 9 points, which is 1.8 points per possession. He's benefiting immediately from Kevon Looney as a screener. He's one of the best screeners in the league, and he can catch and finish around the rim. Big shock. He's going to be just fine in this system. I do think there will be some growing pains over the course of the beginning of the season, just with understanding that everything is still in motion and you don't want to stop the basketball. But I didn't see much of that in their first game, and things looked pretty smooth offensively. There was a specific play on the right wing that I thought demonstrated the kind of shots he's going to get in this offense. There was Steph Curry was on the right wing, and Chris Paul's in the right corner. Looney runs a dribble handoff with Steph. Steph doesn't take Looney doesn't actually hand him the ball, and then flows into a dribble handoff with Chris Paul. Steph runs through. Klay and Andrew Wiggins kind of switch places on the weak side. All the help defenders are occupied. So you have like a real cleared side pick and roll for Looney and Chris Paul. And on the play, the reason why he rejected the dribble handoff was Jared Vanderbilt actually ducks under the pick and meets Chris Paul on the other side. But because Looney and Chris Paul are both smart players in these two-man games, instead of trying to use the dribble handoff and run right into Vando, Chris Paul turns around and runs a ball screen with Looney. Looney turns and reverses angle and sets the screen. Chris gets a wide-open 15-footer along the baseline that he makes. Like the screening thing, I think, is going to be the biggest one that catches everyone off guard, is just how good of a screener Kevon Looney is compared to some of the recent players that Chris Paul has played with and the type of advantages he's going to get. There was another floater that Chris Paul made in the first half where Gabe Vincent was trying to chase Chris Paul over the screen, and Looney just set a brick wall screen and squared Vincent up, and Chris Paul had all the separation in the world. And as soon as Looney got downhill in his roll, the screen defender hopped over to him, and Chris Paul had just a wide open floater in the lane. I actually think Chris is going to be a very efficient pick and roll, dribble handoff, and off-screen player with the Warriors, because I actually think he's going to get more separation than he has in any of these situations in the past. They also ran a ghost screen with Steph Curry. You guys might remember this one where Vincent's guarding Steph, and Steph just kind of runs up to set a ball screen on Chris, but then just quickly juts to the top of the key, and Chris hits him for a catch-and-shoot 3. They're just going to play a lot of really easy basketball together. My concerns with Chris Paul are not about the offensive fit. It's just mostly about whether or not you can afford to play him alongside Steph and Klay from a size perspective. That depends on Klay doing things like defending power forwards. And there was some encouraging stuff there, right? When we saw Rui Hachimura on back-to-back possessions try to back Klay Thompson down on the left block and get stripped and basically be rendered useless. And Klay's running over to the other end and talking shit. It was kind of a cool competitive moment. Klay is an underrated big player. I'm less concerned about his ability to guard in the post. Obviously, it's one thing guarding LeBron, but I'm less concerned about him guarding in the post and more concerned about rebounding and what they can do as a group in rotation with that type of size and athleticism on the floor. But offensively, the Chris Paul thing is going to work. It's just there's too much basketball skill and IQ for it not to. Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody both had big nights. They combined for 39 points. They made 6 threes between the two of them. Both had kind of static shot creation moments. You saw Jonathan Kuminga on that play where he got a switch on Taurean Prince and quick ducked in and got a foul. And on the very next possession, Steve Kerr actually drew up a post up for him and didn't get settle for some tough shot. He made a really aggressive rip to the baseline and then spun back to the middle and elevated over the top of Taurean Prince and knocked down that little floater for the and one. Moses Moody had a similar play where he caught Taurean Prince on the left wing in kind of a closeout situation, and he had a really nice rip through right towards the middle. And Taurean Prince cut him off, and he just countered with turning and fading into a right shoulder fadeaway jump shot that he knocked down. The two of them combined to go 3 for 4 on pull-up jump shots. They both had plays attacking closeouts. Jonathan Kuminga had that dribble handoff where he got downhill and elevated over Anthony Davis and made that left-handed layup, which was so ridiculous. What you're seeing from those two is the top-end stuff, right? And, like, both of these guys are going to be really good NBA basketball players for a long time. And, again, like, it's exciting to see that top-end stuff. But at the end of the day, what's going to be most important for both of those two are, can they be impactful defensively and can they be reliable offensively? Because that's going to be what keeps them on the floor in any sort of playoff setting. Like, I mean, obviously, Jonathan Kuminga post-ups and Moses Moody ISOs are great things to have in your back pocket over the course of an 82-game regular season, but you're not tossing the ball down to Jonathan Kuminga in a playoff series in the second and third round. So, like, it's encouraging and that's exciting stuff. I'm not trying to diminish that at all. Obviously, the top end is insane. Jonathan Kuminga legitimately has the potential to be a star. So, like, I'm not trying to minimize that at all. I'm just saying within the short-term window of the Steph Curry, 1 to 2 years left of him being at this, like, absolute top-tier superstar level, potentially 2 or 3 years, right? You need to get impactful winning playoff minutes out of them. So that's where I'm looking to monitor those two more over the course of the season. Like, that stuff is exciting, but let's look at the details over the course of the season. Brandon Podziemski, I thought, had a really impressive, especially in the first half. He got attacked a little bit on defense in the second half, but he held up really well in the first half. He was giving Jalen Hood-Schifino some problems with his strength. He stonewalled Max Christie on an ISO as well. He actually looked pretty damn good defensively in the first half. He ran 13 ball screens for 13 points. That's really good, for a first time ever setting foot on an NBA court to get a point per possession in those situations. They're running action for him, again, in this Warriors system that gets him in positions where he's at his best, which is getting downhill with the defender in trail position because of how strong he is. There was a really nice play with Jalen Hood-Schifino where he came off of a dribble handoff on the left wing, getting downhill towards his right hand, and Hood-Schifino was in trail position, and he just took a power dribble into the lane, and Hood-Schifino overcorrected back towards that right hand, and he pivoted back with his left hand to a little shot in the lane. Because of how strong he is and how good he is with that touch shot in the lane, that's a shot he's going to be able to get in this Warriors offense. I thought overall he looked really, really effective and useful in that Warriors offense. He had a closeout attack against Tayshaun Prince that was really impressive too. So catches on the left wing. He's going to get a lot of these kinds of shots because these are the kinds of shots that Dante DiVincenzo was getting in the offense. But he's on the left side, catches on a kick out when the defense is in rotation. Taurean Prince closes out hard at his right hand, at his left hand, right, which is probably the scouting port on Podziemski, and he rips through to the right. And same sort of thing, Taurean Prince is overplaying that right hand. He does a hard Euro step back over to his left and finishes on the left side of the rim. I thought it was an impressive first game for Brandon Podziemski. Obviously, there was some concern about his shooting in Summer League. I'm just not worried about that at all. So nice start to the preseason for the Warriors. They looked really energetic last night, to say the least. Anthony Davis looked fantastic for the Lakers. He was just cooking, straight up barbecuing Kevon Looney and straight up dribble ISOs to start the game. Got 3 buckets on him, including an and one there. He hit 2 threes. They both looked really smooth. The biggest thing that stood out to me on tape is the release looks quicker. Over the last couple of years, Anthony Davis's release slowed down, which really hurt his energy transfer, and he was leaving a lot of shots short on the rim. Back in the bubble, his shot was quick, and there was like real rhythm and flow to it. And it looked a lot better in the 2 threes that he made on Saturday night. And to put it simply, Anthony Davis, when he's making his jump shot, is a top-tier superstar. End of story. Like, to me, you have your top tier, right, which is guys like Jokic and Giannis and Steph, and then there's a little bit of a drop-off, just a little bit, and Anthony Davis is in that next tier. When Anthony Davis is making his jump shot the way he did in the bubble, he's on that top tier because he's the best defensive player in the world at 28 points a night efficiently. That's hard to hang with, right? But when that jump shot goes away, now he's more in that like 24, 25 points a night, and he's not as effective as a half-court shot maker. that's where he kind of diminishes in his impact to that next tier. But like, that's something to keep an eye on this season because, like I said, and we're going to talk more about this in a mailbag question at the end of the show, but Anthony Davis and his shot making is one of the biggest swing factors for the Lakers and their ability to potentially win a championship. Gabe Vincent, I thought his point of attack defense was really impressive, and that's exciting because this is a specific area of opportunity for the Lakers. He did a really nice job navigating screens and applying ball pressure in their pick and roll coverages. He knocked down 2 threes. Obviously, his spot-up shooting is going to be a value. I think he's going to be a really nice fit with LeBron. He made 2 skip passes in pick and roll. Again, I talk about this a lot, but that's, to me, the most impressive read in pick and rolls. When you can identify that the low man is coming over to defend the action 3-on-2 and you hit that shooter in the weak side corner. Most offensive players either don't see it or are physically incapable of making the pass, and Gabe Vincent made that pass twice for wide open threes last night. I thought that was impressive. D'Angelo Russell had a really nice game. He was aggressive and productive in pick and roll. He ran 14 pick and rolls, leading to 17 points. It's well over a point per possession. And that's despite him going just 1 for 5 on pull-up jump shots. He was missing that little pullback 2 that he likes to take where he kind of does that dramatic pump fake and then kind of leans back. He made 1 of them, but he missed a couple more. Had some good roll man chemistry with Jackson Hayes. There was definitely a more natural pick and roll flow with Jackson Hayes than there was with Christian Wood, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Max Christie made 4 jump shots, including 2 catch-and-shoot jump shots, and then he hit 2 jump shots against drop coverage where the screen defender was back and he got separation and he elevated and knocked down 15-footers. And then again, like he's theoretically, and I didn't see too much of this last night, or on Saturday night, but theoretically he can be one of their best perimeter defenders, and he's one of those guys that I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up cracking the rotation and playing a significant role if he can make enough jump shots and if he can defend well enough on the perimeter. Jalen Hood-Schifino had a rough shooting night. He was 1 for 5 on jump shots and 1 for 5 at the rim. But he did have some moments in pick and roll shot creation where, like, especially when he would get defenders in jail. Now, what that means, what does that mean to get a defender in jail? When you come over the top of a ball screen and the defender's trailing you, instead of going downhill, you identify that the defender's behind you and you slow down and you basically are doing like a reverse post-up. Like you're slowly working downhill while pinning the defender on your backside. He had a play where he got downhill on pick and roll and got Podziemski into a trail position, and he just kind of worked downhill until Jonathan Kuminga left Cam Reddish in the corner to help on the pick and roll, and then he made the kick out pass to Kuminga in the corner. Again, wasn't an impressive game overall from Jalen Hood-Schifino from the standpoint of his production, but he did have a couple of plays there where he used his size and pick and roll to create good shots, and that's something that he's going to have to learn how to replicate. Last note on the Lakers, Cam Reddish and Christian Wood both struggled. They were 2 for 12 from the field with 4 turnovers. Looked like they were kind of out of place most of the time and didn't know what to do. This is the adjustment of learning how to play with a team like this. Like there were a couple possessions where like they're just for no reason. Both of them did it in the first half. Where like for no reason in semi-transition, they just try to dribble into like 3 dudes and turn the ball over. Christian Wood did it and Cam Reddish did it once. There's a play where Cam Reddish came like flying off of a wide screen at the top of the key, and he just like turned and fired like he was Klay Thompson, like just left foot, right foot, drifting in midair. Just an incredibly difficult shot, even for the best shooters in the world, and Cam Reddish took it. And it's like, hey, man, like, that's not what they necessarily need you for. And again, like, you're not trying to tell players that are good offensive players not to be aggressive. You're just trying to tell them to be aggressive in the flow of the offense. Like, for Cam Reddish, what you're asking for is elite point of attack defense, because that's something he's capable of, even though he hasn't done it in the NBA. And you're asking him to be a reliable spot-up threat. So that means hitting catch-and-shoot threes and attacking closeouts. Be aggressive attacking closeouts, not at the beginning of possessions, because there are better players for you in that role. For Christian Wood, it's aggression, but it's aggression in pick and pop and in short roll situations, not just going freelance. Like just when you pick and pop to the top of the key, if you're open, shoot that thing every single time. When they chase you off the line, attack the closeout and make a play. And then obviously Christian Wood has to focus his resources to the defensive end of the floor, because Jackson Hayes, as limited as he can be defensively, he's a better defensive player than Christian Wood right now. So like those are the things that they're just going to have to figure out over time. For those two guys, I want to wait at least a month or two, because they're going to have to figure out where their role is on this team and how it's different than it is on other teams.